All right. Hello, Justin. Welcome to my show today. I'm so excited to have you here with me.
I'm super glad to be here. It's going to be fun.
I know I've been really looking forward to this as we've been, back and forth for a little bit. But you work specifically on energy alignment for entrepreneurs, and I'm really excited to hear more about that. But before we get started, we're going to dive into two really cool topics today for everybody listening. And the first one being this concept of trying to awaken. I know on the show we talk about all the things in what happens when the undoing process happens, but there's a lot of the ego gets involved, right? It starts to want to try to make something happen. So we're going to look at that and how there can be sort of a performance aspect with it, and opposed to genuine awakening. What are some things you can do to actually shift that for yourself? And then we'll also look at another thing which is really near and dear to my heart, Justin, and I'm sure as yours as well, is the messier side of waking up, the nitty gritty, the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, the darkness, the isolation, and all that, and loneliness, and how it can actually be a door that opens us to something more beautiful. So we'll get into that. But before we get started, and I'll stop talking here in a minute, as I want to get to know you, I'd love to hear about your own personal journey in life and how you got to be where you are today and talking about all these really wonderful things. So go ahead and have the floor.
Yeah, I really I've been working on this balance of as I've expanded and learned about myself, I kind of veered away from the sense of self, like me and all these things that I've done, my past, my experiences, my knowledge. But then all simultaneously, I kind of realized that you have to be in it and not in it. And the game that I enjoy the most is really the nuance of the paradox. Like, um, how do I put it? Just to keep it simple, as I was growing up, fitness was always the avenue where I started to notice time warp.
Mm.
And for example, I would play like whether it be kickball in the backyard or an actual football game in high school. I would watch 3 hours go by and I'm playing that game and it just there's no sense of self. I'm not thinking. It's almost like I'm not even conscious
Mhm.
when I'm really in that flow state. So fitness was always that foundation for me. And I think, I've studied a lot of stoicism and I like to keep my perception simple. And Marcus Aurelius has one of these quotes where he says, don't burden yourself by envisioning your entire future like in one moment. And I think that almost leads me into the trickiness of awakening, but ultimately, just to keep my context straightforward here with you, it was like fitness, number one avenue. And then I had pain, right? Family situation. Father wasn't necessarily around. He wasn't fitting into the idea that I had programmed into myself of what a father should be. Lo and behold, he was exactly who I needed. I needed him to not be the perfect father to learn about the nature of consciousness. So that's even already getting into the topics of what we're going to speak about today.
Well, I like where you're going with that because you see what we've been conditioned, like you said, to believe that this is a big one too, with the parents aren't doing what they should be. And I had a terrible upbringing, and a lot of people would take that and wallow in it their entire life, maybe even lifetimes, right? We'll just keep carrying that victimhood. But it's interesting, you took that as he was what I needed him to be for me, and he allowed you to do the work that you needed. So that's a great way to see things, and what a healing experience for you.
Yeah, it's kind of reframing has been extremely powerful for me, and it's like, what am I to do if I can't change the situation, right? All I have is the ability to better understand the nature of who he is, who those, right? If someone yells at you, or if someone in traffic rages, right? The list goes on. There are so many different situations in life where we can have a stimulus thrown at us. And it's Alan Watts, he talks about it's kind of like trying to bite your own teeth or touch the tip of your finger with the same tip of the finger. Like, oh. So I try to live in a way where I'm leading by example, because it's cool to talk about like what has been helpful for me specifically, but I love to bring it back to the structures of what a human being is. And I feel whether it be your father, your mother, or a friendship that went wrong, or an intimate relationship that broke your heart, like there's always going to be these things, and we just have to have the capacity to look at the situation and kind of like take the nuggets, because
Right,
in pain there's vitality.
right,
It's, I don't know, it's a beautiful loop if you stop moving kind of like a headless chicken and you take the time, the energy to see. And this is where the isolation is valuable, right? How are you to understand deeply emotional packed situations in your life if there isn't that stillness to really be present with the energy?
exactly. Yeah, well, the world is a constant circus, right? I mean, we're living in a one massive distraction, whether it's, projected out in front of us and we're doing the projection, other people are projecting, the media is projecting, or, it's just constant distraction so that we don't actually have to go and look within and, like you just said, build that connection or that still point that's really available where everything can shift in your life when you do that. Everything. Like you said, you're seeing with more compassion or you're seeing and understanding something. But when you're just moving at Mach speeds and grabbing a hold of every little thing, there's no possible way that you can see that, no possible way.
Right.
Unless you get
And
knocked over instantaneously and you're forced to sit down, right? And then
uh-huh.
it's due to people.
And sometimes that's even good too. I want to bridge this to the trying to wake up. I feel what happened to me as I was getting out of high school is I was so familiar with a group of friends, and I started to realize, wait, I don't enjoy how I feel after I leave hanging out with them. And I
Mhm.
really had to chew on that. And this was even before I had any awareness of what spirit was really. But even me saying that, as I say that, from being a kid, I always wondered, like, how did we get here? What am I doing here? Who am I? Like, I remember thinking, like, are other people's as aware of their thoughts? Like, it was so weird because I didn't have like the verbiage the to articulate the awareness. But
Mhm.
even as a kid, I was like aware of this game that was going on.
Oh yeah.
And it's like as I go through the movements, I realize, all right, wait, I'm doing these things that are familiar, but they're not actually fruitful.
Mhm.
So that nuance between familiarity and change, it's like change is uncomfortable, but um what if I'm uncomfortable anyways? What if I've gotten used to being uncomfortable and I think that's normal, but
Right.
I've just adopted a weak baseline?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk for 20 minutes straight. So what do
No,
you
no,
think?
I love listening and I think it's great to hear. So, I mean, you bring up a good point is feeling this is what I'm trying to say here. You mentioned that you didn't like the way that you felt, right? After you're with these friends or this group of people. And can you expand a little bit like what did you feel like and how did you go about shifting that and did you purposely like distance yourself? Did you say I need to leave these people or did you just stay and learn how to deal with it? Like what was your route that you took?
Yeah, it was kind of tough. Um, because I didn't really know anything else. They were kind of like my group, and honestly, I kind of just walked away, and it wasn't like a burning of bridges. Actually, one of the people in this situation just got out of jail a couple of days ago, and I'm in contact with him, and I'm grateful to be in contact with him, and I know he has a good heart. And
Yeah.
it was just kind of like, this is the funny part about life. Sometimes you have to walk away for things to strengthen.
Yes.
The
Mhm.
paradox. Yeah. But how I dealt with it, I kind of refocused my priorities. And this is what I always say. I try not to give step by step guides in relationship to spirituality, because the moment I think I know something that you don't know, I'm lost myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not a authority whatsoever. But at the same time, like fitness, simple nutrition, um, working on a form of business endeavor, and just really changing what I focus on, being aware of the relationship between my inputs and how I feel, whether that be digital input, physical input, or like emotional people who I'm around. So
Right.
it was tough, but that's what led me to start meditating. And like meditating itself,
Mhm.
what a helpful action. It's really, how else can I put it?
Yeah. Well, it can alter the course of your life for sure, you know. So do you have a regular meditation practice that you do now, or what is your experience with meditation?
I kind of, it was funny because I was super disciplined. I woke up at like 3 a.m. for years straight, same thing daily, 30-minute meditation. Then I got to this point where I was like, wait, am I just attached to this, right? Am I
Hmm.
getting, and this is the type of person I am. I don't recommend everyone be like this, but I had to challenge myself. So I stopped meditating for
Yeah.
a while. And now recently I picked it up again. And I think that's the sort of, you know, I say, whether you do a guided meditation, whether I just sit down. Sometimes my eyes are open, sometimes I close my eyes. Sometimes I'm focusing on my breath. Sometimes I forget I'm breathing when I'm in a deep meditation. So, it's like, it's kind of the game of, real simply, how do I feel after I do X, right? And just being aware of that. How do I feel after I do X?
Yeah. That's what it is. You made a good point there, which is, am I attached to my meditation? Like, if I don't do my meditation, am I going to set myself up for a horrible day? Am I going to have a bad attitude? Have you cling to it so much that you actually think you need it to have, this productive day or whatever people are doing? Well, I don't know what you think about this, but I've found in my own experience in life that, meditating is wonderful, but can you take the meditation that you're doing in the practice that you have, or the 30 minutes or the 10, however many moments that you have to devote to that, but can you take that, what you're learning there, this still quiet place of emptiness, and can you move with that throughout your day? That to me seems like the ticket. Can you meditate all the time? It's a moving meditation. Can you be the watcher as you're moving through your daily life and your kids are screaming at you and you're going, can you still be very connected to that meditation? Because I think a lot of people meditate and, that it's gone when they leave, and they're racing around and they're a mess. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, or if you do it in your own life, but maybe you can share.
That What a great thing to bring up. And that was pretty much my meaning behind dropping the meditation. I was like, all right, let me see,
I was
can
wondering that. Yeah.
I make this work? And honestly, I that's been one of the most beautiful endeavors in my life. Just kind of taking that leap. Um, Something I say frequently, or I've seen in myself, is Like you sit in stillness and then you realize that things were there that you never knew were there. But in order for the quote unquote demons or the darkness to leave, I love this analogy. Have you ever heard of a trapdoor spider?
A what? A trapdoor spider? No.
Yeah, they're like these spiders. And I love to look at nature to learn about consciousness because the
Yeah.
game, the creator, I feel has like a Joker esque vibe at times.
Yeah.
Like insert Hitler, insert pedophiles, right? If
Right.
why is our world
Loving.
how it is if there was one source to it all? And to me, it's kind of like the trapdoor spider reminds me of the meaning behind sitting in meditation as a practice, because you start to see what was trapped beneath the woodworks, what was deep within you. But then for it to actually leave, you have to have it triggered in daily life. So you take that awareness from the meditation and you notice, oh, there's the friction moment by moment. I'm driving in traffic. Why am I doing this? Why am I thinking this way? Why am I? And then you kind of you sit with the friction, the reaction, the energy in the moment, but you maybe wouldn't have had the awareness without the meditation.
Right.
So then in daily life, it's like the darkness that you got awareness of in stillness, it you can let it evaporate from you as it gets triggered in real life and you correct it. You like righteously see the situation, you notice the energy. I think my main obsession with spirituality is like observing thought, observing emotion, watching myself as or the kids are screaming or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. But then the light replaces that trap door. You know, you had something trapped within you. Now it's coming out. As you observe it, it changes. The light goes in. So that's like one of those metaphors I enjoy.
Well, it's a great tool because you're getting real with yourself too. You're actually seeing yourself clearly. When I think a lot of people, if they have that bad reaction that comes out, it's an immediate, I'm a bad person. A lot of people have this programming, I'm terrible. Let's just keep pushing that down and it just keeps exploding. Rather than when you're with that observer and you're actually really looking with serious awareness, with no judgment, right? You're dropping that, which is so huge. You're just looking clearly and saying, and there's a little bit of humor that comes, I think, over time, not at first, but almost a comical, like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I'm seriously a freak right now. I'm insane. If you don't take yourself so seriously all the time, right? And you just relax and you're able and you're really willing to look and see what you're doing, it brings a lightness to it instead of this heavy, oh my God, I'm horrible kind of energy. But it's cute.
That's the trying to wake up trap, isn't it?
Yeah, let's go there now, Justin. Take us to the trying of it.
I was kind of looking at what you were saying. I was talking about this yesterday, where it's like, okay, if I take my life too serious, there's a problem. But if I don't take my life serious enough, there's
Sorry.
also a problem.
Sorry for that
And
jingle.
it's okay. It's okay. And it's like, all right, so my seriousness comes in the form of fundamentals, foundational aspects to life, right? Fitness, nutrition, inputs.
Yeah.
But then my not seriousness comes in with the lack of judgment, right? Because what you say is such a beautiful point of that's the trap. Oh, you had a reaction. Oh, you noticed energy. The trap is judging yourself. The trap is wanting to be lighter or more holy than you are. It's like, well, this is what I am. Well, I'm going to have to learn to accept what I am. And then naturally, the funny part about it is once you stop trying so hard to change, then you naturally change. It's
I
like,
know,
okay,
isn't that's an interesting dichotomy, isn't it?
yeah,
When you stop trying, things just happen. It's so true. I mean, And then you have to look at what is trying so hard. What is it that's trying so hard? The identity is so like that ego identity that's climbing a ladder and seeking some achievement is, to me, getting itself involved with being an awakened being. You see a lot of this today where people just want to have some, I don't really know, some perfect blissed out ecstasy, state of mind constantly, which just doesn't even seem possible to me if you're really looking at it clearly. But what is that about? What is that about, the identity that's seeking for trying so hard to reach a certain status of spirituality?
Right, right. That in itself is it's like I don't know how far you can go. And I do my best to not limit the path, but at the same time, it, you know, having any form of you have to get so good at noticing the implications of your thinking, which is it's hard to put into words. I like to use this line: you have to read between the lines of the words of your thinking. Like you look at the implications of how I'm thinking, and right, it's tricky because you definitely need to have like goals and foundations, but especially in the spiritual evolution, it's kind of like the only way that you further yourself is by not obsessing over the furthering.
Right.
So, what am I to do? Really is one of those questions, like straightforward. And I always come back to um, simple fundamentals. And then there's like a precipice or a cliff where you realize, hey, things are as they are, and I'm where I'm meant to be. And all the things that I want to change, who I want to become, it will happen when I walk in faith, when I trust. So, how do I let go of wanting to become while still executing on that which keeps me clear?
Right.
It's, and then I always come back to seeing the world through a vibrational state of being. Because if I realize, all right, I do these things and then I feel wonderful and I can share that clarity with others, then I see more.
Yeah.
But if I obsess over operating at a high frequency all the time, then I'm being fake.
Yeah. I think what you're getting at is you're operating in a state of allowance. You're allowing the life to lead you. And as you said, even if you have certain goals or things in mind that you want to achieve or you want your life to go in a certain direction, still maintaining a sense of allowing yourself to be guided to wherever that, maybe that goal is not exactly how your mind had it, but it's leading you to something slightly different or where you truly need to be. That's another thing.
One of my friends, he keeps saying God works in weird ways. And you know, I had a partnership kind of end recently. But then immediately it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful because the same day that the partnership ended, I had an amazing day.
Oh.
And it was just kind of like, man, younger Justin would not be able to enjoy himself.
No.
And I just kind of realized, like, hey, there's nothing to hold on to here. When earlier this year, my first dog I ever had, she passed away. She died.
Oh.
In on my shoulders, I carried her out of the woods for 30
Oh
minutes.
no.
She's like 90 pounds.
What
And this
happened in the woods? Did she just die in the
she,
woods? I'm so sorry.
she it was really beautiful because my girlfriend was behind me and she was conscious the whole time we were walking. And the moment I put her down in the car, that her spirit jumped out of her body within the next few minutes. I was holding her, and she had a heart tumor that kind of punctured,
Yeah.
something like that. And this was so funny. I don't want to get into too much detail, but we had another leash with my other dog. And the moment I turned around and noticed that my Miss B, she was sitting there and she started wobbling, the other leash broke on my other dog. And
So,
I'm like, all right, yep, yep. And
so,
see,
yeah,
this is kind of the in the moment. In the moment, my ego was like, "Wah," but I was also so aware that I had nothing else to do but be strong. Nothing. Physically strong with 90-pound dog on my back for 30
right.
minutes,
Yeah,
but also um, just strong in terms of accepting and realizing like there life is impermanent.
yeah,
It's like we would love for everyone to live forever, but would we really love that? We, there's one rapper who I enjoy, and Outcast is his name, and he kind of says the everyday ruler can't be too wrong.
yeah,
And with this partnership ending, I realized I'm like, there's a new beginning. There's something new coming my way.
yeah.
It's like when things, yeah,
Well, there's always the grieving, which is very human, very natural process with any loss, doesn't matter what it is, the loss of a relationship, a partnership, a career path, whatever it is. There's that moment where you feel like you could never move forward, Well, I don't know what to do with myself, but it's that new beginning that's coming, and the mind is just so terrified of what it's not comfortable with. That's really what it is. It's not comfortable, and it'll be comfortable even in its misery. Well, I'm comfortable in my misery. That's why I'm terrified to get out of it. I don't know what lies ahead, and I'm terrified of the unknown, I think is what we're kind of pointing at there.
right. And I'm glad you bring up the word, the unknown, because I think that's a huge nugget in this journey is learning how to change your relationship with uncertainty. I like to say sometimes the truest of kings are the kings of nothing.
Oh, yeah.
What? Well, like, it's just like I know in my heart that I have been brought to this earth for a reason. And all simultaneously, I know I'm not special. Because the
Yeah.
moment I think I'm special, then it just corrupts everything. So it's like that sort of balance of, all right, there's something going on,
Yeah.
you know, and I always come back to the intelligence of the universe. This is why I was kind of talking when I was complimenting your shirt at the beginning with the leaves, the colors, the flowers. There's the impermanence, the joy, the death, the heartbreak, how are we to enjoy this? Well, you got to be in it and not in it. How do you do that? Well, get good at living in uncertainty. What's the real practicality of that? I would say it's like observing your sense of self. What creates your sense of self? The trio: memory, knowledge, and experience. So if you can observe your relationship to your memory, knowledge, experience, how does that get communicated? The vehicle of thought. So it always comes back to me, how can I be aware of my thinking, my emotions, my energy, whilst having a little humor? I
Right.
think humor is so important.
It is
Such a
super.
great tool.
Yeah. And people get so wrapped up in themselves and don't see the human. They don't see it. And it's like they're believing in this whole thing. Like it. But I get it. To each his own. And whenever you're ready to let go of certain things, you're ready. Um,
I think that's part of the messy path is like something that happened to me. Um, I wanted other people to see how I saw. I
yeah.
wanted to help other people who weren't ready to help themselves. And then I come across something like, to force truth upon someone who isn't ready for truth, that's not right. So it's like this weird compassion of, all right, if you want to be miserable, you can be miserable. I pray for you. I love you. I forgive you. And you will learn. You will. I don't know when. I don't know how. But I know that you have the intelligence in you. And then my sisters, for example, they find themselves rushing a lot.
Yeah.
They are unprepared. They create their own hamster wheel cycles of suffering.
Yeah.
They won't listen to me because I'm their brother. I'm just their brother. But
They don't care what you have to say. Family is like that. They literally do not care what you have to say. You brought up something interesting there, which is why would I, stop somebody's misery? And I kind of look at it too, like you can almost see where somebody's going to go, right? But it's their decision to make, it's their path. And why would I deny them the opportunity to see clearly? If that means going down a really long rabbit hole, there's beauty in that. And maybe we can touch on this now as when you're in that, let's say you make a decision to go down a really dark path, is that such a bad thing? Is there some opportunity in that that's going to offer this person a wake up call or an epiphany in life, or, whatever it is in form, but allowing them to do it. So what do you see as the beauty that lies underneath the darkness or the messier parts or even the loneliness? What do you see there?
I think it's a newfound sense of sensitivity or a expansion. Like earlier, I was kind of saying the pain invokes vitality. And in my own journey, I kind of feel like what happened to me, although my standards may be a little bit different, right? And this is why I speak in a structural manner rather than a content specific manner, because if you go to rock bottom, I think you bounce off of rock bottom. If you go down to the bottom so fast, you will bounce off the bottom.
Right.
It's kind of like this and that means even when you're confused, being fully confused, like doing everything you do to your best capacity, even if you may be lost.
Yeah.
Um, what does that mean? It's kind of like as above, as below. If you can touch the depths of hell, then you can touch heaven. But you can't do either without, the yin yang, the day and the night, the prey and predator,
Yeah.
the rain, the elements, the fire, earth, air, water. Like we need all of this in our lives. So it's kind of like, how can you just create a little bit of space? And this is where fundamentals, hiking in nature. Like on that day where the partnership thing happened,
Yeah.
immediately I went, sat down, meditated, went on a walk. I'm like, hey, my life's not bad. I can guarantee you if I were to pick up my phone and just scrolled for 40 minutes, and then I would have been in probably a much different state of being.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of where I love to speak metaphorical, philosophical, but I also like in the Bible and the holy books, they talk like tie your camel. Like, don't just think the camel's going to stay there. Like,
Right.
you know, change your oil, make sure your tires have air in them.
Right.
Just viewing life from
Have to be
this.
practical. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to use practicality here, or you're gonna get very lost.
Right.
Right. So, have you had any? What can you speak to personally of just real loneliness that brought you to a state of understanding or beauty in your life?
I think, the toughest one was I had an on and off relationship with a lady who I cared deeply about in high school. And then, like, one day I checked her phone and I never checked her phone because I was never an insecure guy. But it was like spirit. And I read something, I'm like, oh, and then that, that just, um, it sent me into this stoic state of, you know what? I got to make some changes. And see, this is a lot of people in relationships specifically from so many business people have talked about the importance of choosing your partner wisely. Like, what does that mean? I think so. The pain of that relationship being on and off in a toxic tit for tat thing, it led me to understanding what I didn't want. And this is a huge point.
Yeah.
Same thing with my father. My father showed me how to stop being his son and how to be a real man because I realized that he was the perfect anti role model. And so then a lot of the times in life, it's like you could say, oh, I don't have anyone good around me. Well, first of all, you have technology. I've learned so much from people who have been dead for a while. Like the people who I've listened to the most over the past
Oh, yeah.
7 years or so have all passed away before 2000s for the most part. That's one thing. But the other thing is anti role models.
Right.
Like it's so helpful to know what you don't want to be. And and for me, it was like that relationship showed me I can't do this again.
Yeah.
I cannot be in something where we're just half-assing it.
Yeah.
You know, I'd much rather be alone in solitude. And that's what I did. And lo and behold, then a magnificent lady comes into my life. How? Because I stopped wanting her.
Yeah.
I just realized it's me. I gotta be the guy.
Yeah.
When I'm the guy, I'll meet the lady.
Right. Focus on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool that you learned that. You seem like you're fairly young, so you learned that fairly young. A lot of people, they don't want to see a situation as beneficial to them. It's something that was, terrible for them, especially when you talk about role models or relationships. If somebody wronged me, well, I want to hate them forever, right? That's the ego's destiny, like to just threaten. If it feels threatened, it's going to attack, no matter what. So the fact that you can, you're stepping outside of that already and like, no, I don't want to ever do that again. So you don't, you know. But a lot of people will go and attract the same exact relationships over and over and over and still blame and blame and blame and never see that that is an opportunity to break free, to really get outside and say, I have a choice. Like, I don't have to do any of this. And maybe this person is actually gifting me something so profound. They're showing me what I don't need. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Like, thank
Right.
you for freeing me because I don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with me anyway, right? I was just saying this to one of my daughters the other day. I was like, do you really want to be with a guy who doesn't show interest in you? And she was like, no. And I said, well, then what are we sulking around for? Be
Right.
happy. Like you were happy before, so you can be happy now, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just something we do. You get into these patterns and no one's, thinking unless there's that real serious awareness that's just sitting in you, which is so beautiful.
Right. Right. Sometimes it's kind of things have to fissure. Sometimes, like for me, that was what happened. It was like a volcano marinating, marinating, marinating. And then, hey, you squeeze that lemon, squeeze that pain.
Yeah.
Like and see, this is one of the most fundamental shifts anyone can make is to let go of the victim mentality. Like if you can stop saying, why me? If you can stop saying, this happened to me, and you can really look at, all right, but what's the fruit? What did I learn here?
Mhm.
My junior year, we were like 9-0, 9-1 in our football team, and we got crushed by one other team mid-season. And that loss taught us way more than all the wins.
Yeah.
Like it was getting absolutely obliterated, taken off of our high horse,
Yeah.
humbled,
Right.
right? And this is where God works in weird ways. But I, see, this is where I don't know how to decipher exactly why, how people are where they are in conscious awareness. But to me, it's kind of like you can feel some people. I don't know how many times you've been here before, like certain people, but it's like how are the levels of consciousness are there's just so many different roles being played. And
Oh,
I think I like that phrase because it gives me some warmth in understanding. All right, well, they're playing that role. And, you just kind of get a taste of realizing the nature of the universe itself. And that can be so unhinging.
yeah.
And that's why I always come back to the fundamentals because if you don't have the practicalities and you're so aware, it can be like my childhood felt hard because I don't know, I was just sensitive.
Right.
And yeah, but that sensitivity, juice the lemon, juice the lemon, juice the lemon.
Well, that's really great. Juice the lemon. That's funny. Well, it appears that there are many, many levels here. It certainly looks that way. We never know where anybody is, and it's not really our business to know where anybody else is either, I don't think. We can respect each other for where we are and respect that people can make their own decisions. And gosh, if we could continue to live in a world where people actually respected other people's opinions, that would be nice. Because we're at a strange time where you can't say anything without offending somebody else, or that understanding component I think that you're getting at, and that compassion is something that has to be birthed in the individual, right? It's the only way that each person has to come to that in their own time, and not everyone does, and that's okay too. There's that part too, that you just say everyone is where they are, and if you know that, or if you have a strong sense, or um, maybe you have a suspicion that all of us are really returning to the Godhead, or God, or home, or whatever words you use, then everyone will do that on their own time. We all return, so we can respect that in each other. But I think let's try to just wrap up today. Justin, is there anything else that you want to touch on? You want to share with the listeners what you're up to now, where we can find you? You have a very soothing voice. Some people might really like listening to you. So where can we find you?
I would say, well, thank you so much. It was just like what a great conversation.
Oh, I've
It's
really
so
enjoyed it. Yeah.
it's so fun when time just goes by fast. And that's what I experienced here. So I'm grateful for having this opportunity today.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
for reaching out. I loved it.
And my main platform, you just energy alignment for entrepreneurs on podcast. And yeah, hey, it's funny. One of the state cops at jujitsu, he's retired, but he goes to me a couple months ago. You need to narrate. You need to narrate audiobooks. And I looked into that. But hey, I love the podcast. I've heard that from so many people. And I think it's maybe just a manifestation of the homeostasis, or like where I operate most of the time. Hey, I'm not always peaceful. If you catch me after jujitsu and I'm soaked in sweat, I'm probably a little bit more like da 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 da.
Yeah.
But it's been a blast, and I am working on sort of like a fitness offer, Greek God method. But hey, I'll leave that there. Ultimately, I think we covered so many great things. I will be talking on these topics until I'm dead. So I'm sure you will kind of understand that there's so much to touch on.
There
And
is. It's a
hey,
never-ending conversation to me. I could talk about it for hours, and it's lovely to cross paths with people like you who do the same. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to doing it again.
yeah, that would be awesome. I was just about to say the same thing. It would be cool to connect again in the future. But keep doing your thing. I love what you said in relationship to your daughter, like being a great parent. I appreciate that so much. Just
Uh,
for
I don't know
like
what they think, but from my, from my vantage point, I'm trying, and my time as their parent as children is almost over. So I look forward to parenting them as adults. All right, well, take care, Justin. We'll see you soon.
take care. Thank you so much.